Captain Kim's hands gripped the command chair as warning alarms blared across the bridge of the UCS Defender. Red lights bathed everything in an ominous glow, while the massive holographic display showed dozens of alien contacts moving toward human space like hungry predators. "Distance to enemy fleet?" Kim barked, his eyes never leaving the tactical readout. 12 hours at current speed, sir," Lieutenant Lee responded, sweat beading on her forehead as she worked the sensor controls. Her fingers moved rapidly across the glowing interface, trying to get clearer readings on the approaching threat. "The NIGMA ships are massive, Captain. Each one is at least 3 times the size of our largest battlecruiser." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of life support systems and the occasional beep from monitoring stations. Through the main viewport, stars twinkled peacefully, giving no hint of the approaching storm. Commander Han approached the central display, his weathered face grim with concern. He had seen plenty of combat in his 30 years of service, but nothing quite like this. "Sir, we're getting reports from Colony 7. The civilians there are panicking. They're demanding immediate evacuation." Kim nodded slowly, understanding the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Thousands of human lives depended on the decisions made in the next few hours. "What's the status of Ambassador Park's negotiations?" Lee pulled up another screen, showing communication logs from the past 3 months. "Complete failure, Captain. The NIGMA representatives called our diplomatic team pathetic meat creatures, and laughed when Ambassador Park mentioned our territorial sovereignty. They said we were too primitive to deserve respect from a superior species." The captain's jaw tightened. He had served in the Colonial Defense Force for 15 years and had never encountered such arrogant aliens. Most species in the galaxy at least showed basic diplomatic courtesy, even during conflicts. "They're treating us like insects, sir," Han added, pulling up intercepted NIGMA communications. "Our translators have been working around the clock to decode their language. From what we can understand, they see humans as nothing more than interesting specimens for their research facilities." Kim studied the alien fleet formation on the display. The NIGMA ships looked like enormous metallic beetles, their hulls covered in strange organic-looking armor that seemed to shift and move in the starlight. Weapon ports dotted their surfaces like deadly eyes, and strange energy readings emanated from their engines. "How many colonies have they attacked so far?" Kim asked, though he dreaded the answer. 7 confirmed hits," Lee reported, her voice heavy with emotion. "Colony 4 was completely stripped of all human inhabitants. Colony 6 lost over half its population before the survivors managed to escape into the underground shelters. The lucky ones got away in evacuation ships." Commander Han activated another display showing footage from the attacked colonies. Burning, buildings, destroyed infrastructure, and worst of all, evidence of mass abductions filled the screen. "They're not just killing our people, Captain. Intelligence reports suggest they're taking humans back to their home worlds for biological experiments." Kim felt a cold rage building in his chest. The thought of innocent colonists being used as test subjects by these alien monsters made his blood boil. "What kind of experiments?" Medical Officer Dr. Song analyzed the few survivors who escaped. Han continued grimly. "The NIGMA appear to be studying human physiology, testing our pain tolerance and examining our neural patterns. They seem particularly interested in how we think differently from their hive mind collective." The tactical display suddenly erupted, with new contacts as the NIGMA fleet adjusted course, heading directly toward the most populated human colonies. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization, like a swarm of mechanical insects following invisible commands. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Cho," the communications officer announced. The main screen flickered, revealing the stern face of Admiral Cho, the highest-ranking human military officer in this sector. Behind her, the command center of the UCS Titan buzzed with activity as officers prepared for what might be humanity's most important battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Cho." Her voice echoed across every human vessel in the fleet. "I am transmitting one final warning to the NIGMA Empire on all frequencies. Let there be no misunderstanding about our position." The transmission switched to external broadcast mode, sending the message directly to the approaching alien fleet. Admiral Cho's voice carried across space with deadly seriousness. NIGMA Empire. This is Admiral Cho of the United Colonial Defense Force. You have attacked our colonies, murdered our civilians, and enslaved our people. We have tried diplomacy, and you have responded with violence. This is your final warning. Withdraw from human space immediately or face the consequences. For several tense minutes, space remained silent. Then the NIGMA response came through the communication systems, filled with chittering laughter and mechanical clicking sounds that sent chills down every human spine. The alien voice was cold and emotionless when translated. Pathetic mammals dare to threaten the mighty NIGMA Empire. Your species will make excellent research subjects. Resistance is futile. Without another word, the lead NIGMA hive ship powered up its main weapons. Brilliant energy beams lanced across space, striking the nearest human outpost. The small research station exploded in a ball of fire and debris. The war had begun. Deep beneath the ruined surface of Colony 9, Engineer Yoon wiped sweat from her forehead as sparks flew from the alien device on her workbench. The underground bunker hummed with activity as dozens of human resistance fighters worked by the light of salvaged emergency lamps. The air smelled of burned electronics and determination. "Pass me that plasma cutter," Yoon called to her assistant, Technician Beck. Her hands were stained blue from handling NIGMA circuitry, the alien technology unlike anything humans had ever encountered. Where human electronics use straight lines and rigid patterns, the NIGMA systems flowed like living tissue, pulsing with organic energy. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Private Shin, nervously watching the alien shield generator that Yoon had been dissecting for the past 6 hours. The device looked like a metallic flower with crystalline petals that shifted colors as energy flowed through them. Yoon grinned, her eyes bright with discovery. That's the beautiful thing about hive minds. They think they're so advanced, but they're actually incredibly limited. Every single NIGMA ship uses identical shield frequencies because they all receive the same instructions from their central command. No individual thinking, no creative solutions. She connected her modified scanner to the alien device, and immediately the bunker's computers began displaying wave patterns and energy signatures. Look at this. Their shields pulse in perfect rhythm, like a heartbeat. Once you know the frequency, you can punch right through them. Across the bunker, Corporal Jang was busy modifying captured NIGMA weapons for human use. The alien plasma rifles were designed for insectoid hands, but human ingenuity had found ways to adapt them. He had welded human grips onto the alien barrels and rewired the power systems to work with human energy cells. The scary part is how predictable they are in combat, Jang explained to the gathered resistance fighters. I've watched their attack patterns for weeks. Every NIGMA squad moves in, exactly the same formation. Every ship follows identical flight paths. It's like fighting robots that only know one program. He held up his modified weapon, the hybrid human-alien technology gleaming under the bunker lights. But that predictability is also their weakness. Once you know their patterns, you can always stay one step ahead. Above ground, the sound of explosions echoed through the collapsed buildings of what used to be Colony 9's main city. Captain Nam crouched behind a destroyed hover car, his tactical display showing the positions of his scattered teams. Unlike the NIGMA forces that moved in rigid formations, his human squads operated with complete independence. Team Alpha, hit their left flank, Nam whispered into his comm unit. Team Beta, circle around and strike their rear position. Team Charlie, create a distraction at the main gate. What the NIGMA garrison couldn't understand was that each human team was making their own tactical decisions in real time. There was no central command telling them exactly what to do. Each squad leader adapted to the battlefield situation using their own judgment and creativity. Through his binoculars, Nam watched the alien defenders scrambling in confusion. The NIGMA warriors stood nearly 8 feet tall, their chitinous armor gleaming black in the artificial light from their installations. They moved like giant insects, their forearms wielding advanced energy weapons that could slice through steel. But, for all their individual power, they seemed lost without constant direction from their hive commanders. Sergeant Moon's voice crackled through the radio from her sniper position atop a ruined skyscraper. "Captain, you should see this. The NIGMA squad leaders keep looking around like they're waiting for someone to tell them what to do. They can't make independent decisions. Moon adjusted the scope on her modified rail rifle, a human weapon upgraded with alien targeting systems. Through the crosshairs, she could see NIGMA commanders clicking their mandibles in apparent frustration, their compound eyes scanning the battlefield for threats they couldn't predict or counter. Every time we change tactics, they freeze up for several seconds, Moon continued. It's like their brains need time to process information they weren't programmed to handle. Back in the underground bunker, Dr. Kang was putting the finishing touches on his masterpiece. The brilliant computer scientist had spent weeks studying captured NIGMA communication equipment, learning how their network systems operated. What he discovered shocked him. Their entire empire is connected through one massive communication web, Kang explained to the gathered resistance leaders. Every ship, every base, every soldier receives orders through the same network. It's incredibly efficient but also incredibly vulnerable. He held up a small data crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. This virus is designed to spread through their communication system like wildfire. It won't destroy their network, but it will flood it with false information and contradictory orders. Technician Park, who had been helping with the programming, grinned with anticipation. Imagine thousands of NIGMA ships all receiving different instructions at the same time. Their perfect coordination will turn into complete chaos. Dr. Kang inserted the crystal into the captured NIGMA communication relay they had been using to monitor alien transmissions. Immediately, the device began uploading the virus into the NIGMA network, sending the malicious code racing across space at light speed. The beauty of this approach is that the NIGMA can't simply disconnect from their network, Kang continued. Their entire society depends on constant communication with the hive mind. Without it, individual NIGMA literally don't know how to function. Within minutes, reports began flooding in from human forces across the sector. NIGMA squadrons were suddenly changing direction mid-flight. Alien ground forces were receiving conflicting orders. Some NIGMA ships were even firing on their own allies as the virus spread confusion throughout their ranks. Engineer Yoon looked up from her work, alien circuitry still sparking in her hands. They thought their hive mind made them superior to us. They were wrong. Individual human creativity and adaptability will always beat rigid programming. The tide of war was beginning to turn. The darkness of space around Earth suddenly filled with a terrifying sight that would haunt humanity's dreams for generations. Like a plague of metallic locusts, the NIGMA Grand Fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Over 1 million ships stretched across the void, their crystalline hulls catching starlight and reflecting it back in deadly rainbows of destruction. Aboard the massive Hive Command ship, Queen Zektar stood 12 feet tall on her 6 legs, her compound eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. Her chitinous exoskeleton was decorated with the bones of conquered species from across the galaxy. Around her, thousands of NIGMA drones worked at biomechanical control stations, their minds linked directly to the ship's systems. The human homeworld lies defenseless before us, Queen Zektar clicked to her war drone generals. Their pathetic fleet numbers barely 50,000 ships. We outnumber them 20 to 1. This will be the shortest conquest in our empire's history. The war drones clicked their mandibles in agreement, their forearms manipulating holographic displays that showed the approaching human forces. To their alien minds, the coming battle was already decided. Numbers always determined victory in their experience. But Queen Zektar had never faced humans before. On the bridge of the human flagship UCS Liberty, Admiral Shin stood calmly before the main tactical display. Her gray hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her uniform bore the scars of countless previous battles. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces showing determination rather than fear. Admiral, enemy fleet, is now in weapons range, reported Captain Yang from the sensor station. They're maintaining perfect formation just like our intelligence predicted. Shin nodded, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. Through the main viewport, she could see the endless expanse of NIGMA ships stretching beyond the horizon. Any sane military commander would have surrendered immediately when faced with such overwhelming odds. But Admiral Shin was about to show the galaxy why humans had earned their reputation as the most unpredictable warriors in known space. "All ships, this is Admiral Shin," she announced over the fleet communication channel. Her voice carried to every human vessel, from massive battleships to single-pilot fighters. "You know what we're facing. You know the odds. But today, we're going to teach these bugs that numbers don't mean everything." She paused, letting her words sink in across the human fleet. "Implement Protocol Chaos. All units are free to engage independently. Show them what human creativity can do." The response was immediate and devastating to NIGMA expectations. The orderly human fleet formation suddenly exploded into apparent madness. Ships scattered in every direction, each captain choosing their own approach to the battle. Some dove directly toward the enemy, others performed impossible barrel rolls, and a few even seemed to retreat before suddenly changing direction. Captain Bay gripped the controls of his destroyer UCS Thunder as he executed a maneuver that would have been impossible for any other species to attempt. His ship spun in a tight spiral directly through a gap in the NIGMA formation, firing in all directions as it twisted through space like a corkscrew. "This is insane," shouted his weapons officer, Lieutenant Rowe, as enemy plasma bolts flashed past their hull. "We're flying straight through their entire battle line." "That's exactly why it's going to work." Bay laughed, pulling his ship into an even tighter spiral. "They can't predict crazy." His destroyer emerged from the enemy formation completely undamaged, having destroyed 6 NIGMA cruisers that couldn't adjust their targeting systems fast enough to track his erratic movement pattern. Nearby, Commander O was executing an even more audacious plan. Her heavy cruiser UCS Defiance accelerated directly toward the largest NIGMA battleship, its weapon systems charging for what appeared to be a suicide attack. "All hands, brace for impact," O announced over the ship's intercom. The NIGMA battleship began pouring weapons fire into her path, confident they could destroy the human vessel before it reached them. At the last possible second, O threw her ship into a violent 90-degree turn, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot around. The NIGMA formation, the sudden maneuver caught the aliens completely off guard, disrupting their entire battle line as they tried to track her unexpected course. "Direct hit on their command ship," reported her tactical officer as O's weapons tore through the confused NIGMA formation. "They're completely out of position." In the depths of space, Lieutenant Jun piloted her single-seat fighter through a maze of enemy ships that towered over her tiny craft like mechanical mountains. Her fighter was barely 50 meters long, dwarfed by NIGMA vessels that measured in kilometers, but she moved through their ranks like a ghost. Target lock detected. Her fighter's computer warned as multiple NIGMA ships tried to focus their weapons on her. "Not today," Jun whispered, throwing her fighter into a series of random direction changes that followed no pattern whatsoever. She dove under a NIGMA carrier, rolled around a destroyer, and then accelerated straight up through a gap that had existed for barely 2 seconds. Her unpredictable flight path confused the alien targeting systems completely. Every time they calculated where she would be, she had already changed direction in a way their computers couldn't anticipate. Aboard the NIGMA command ship, chaos was spreading faster than their hive mind could process. War drone General Klektar clicked frantically at his control station, trying to make sense of the battle data flowing through the network. "Queen Zektar," he screamed, his compound eyes wide with panic. "The human ships are not following any recognizable tactical doctrine. Our battle computers cannot predict their movements." The massive queen turned all 6 of her eyes toward the tactical display, watching in growing horror as her perfectly coordinated fleet was being torn apart by what appeared to be complete chaos. "Each human ship is operating independently," another war drone reported. "They have no central coordination, no unified strategy. How can they fight effectively without orders from a central mind?" Queen Zektar's mandibles clicked in confusion and growing fear. In all her centuries of conquest, she had never encountered an enemy that fought this way. Every species in the galaxy used logical, predictable tactics that could be analyzed and countered. But humans fought with something the NIGMA had never encountered before. Individual creativity multiplied by thousands of independent minds, all working toward the same goal without needing to be told exactly what to do. As the battle raged around Earth, it became clear that the NIGMA Empire had made a fatal miscalculation. They had brought order to fight chaos, logic to combat creativity, and rigid programming to battle human adaptability, and they were losing. The war room aboard the UCS Vengeance fell silent as Fleet Admiral Song entered, her footsteps echoing against the metal floor. The holographic star map showed dozens of red markers indicating NIGMA-controlled systems, but her cold gray eyes held something far more dangerous than tactical analysis. They held the promise of retribution. "Gentlemen, ladies," Admiral Song began, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's collective anger. "For months we fought defensively. We protected our colonies, saved our people, and tried to be reasonable. That time is over." The assembled commanders shifted in their seats as images of destroyed human settlements filled the displays around them. Burned cities, empty schools, and footage of human children being dragged aboard NIGMA transport ships painted a picture that would fuel human rage for generations. They made this personal when they targeted civilians. Song continued, her hands clenched behind her back. "They made it unforgivable when they turned our people into laboratory specimens. Now we show them what happens when humanity stops playing defense." General Park leaned forward in his chair, his scarred face reflecting years of ground combat experience. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Song's smile was colder than the vacuum of space. "We hunt them down. Every ship, every base, every world they've claimed. The NIGMA Empire wanted to see what humans are capable of when we're truly motivated. They're about to find out." 3 days later, Captain Wu's strike force emerged from hyperspace near Hectron Prime, a NIGMA mining world that had been strip mining asteroids for precious metals used in their ship construction. The planet's surface was covered with massive excavation machines operated by enslaved species from across the galaxy. Scanning multiple human life signs on the surface, reported Lieutenant Choi from the sensor station aboard Wu's flagship. "Looks like they're using our people as forced labor in the deep mines." Captain Wu's jaw tightened as he studied the tactical display. The NIGMA had built their mining operation around a series of hive cities that burrowed deep into the planet's crust. Thousands of alien workers and human prisoners toiled in the darkness below. "Signal all ships," Wu ordered, his voice carrying across the strike force. "No mercy. They showed none to our civilians and we'll show none to them. But remember, our people are down there. Precision strikes only until we can extract the prisoners." The human fleet opened fire with surgical precision, their weapons targeting NIGMA defense installations while carefully avoiding the mining complexes where human prisoners were held. Unlike the aliens' crude bombardment tactics, human forces combined overwhelming firepower with careful strategy. Within hours, Colonel Ryu's marine assault troops were dropping from orbit in armored shuttles, their destination the main hive city that served as the planet's command center. The Marines wore powered armor adapted with NIGMA technology captured from previous battles, giving them enhanced strength and protection. "Remember your training," Colonel Ryu announced over the squad channel as their shuttle approached the landing zone. NIGMA hive cities are designed like insect colonies. Narrow passages, multiple levels, and lots of dead ends. Stay together and watch each other's backs. The assault began at dawn. Human Marines poured through the hive city's entrances like avenging angels, their weapons blazing as they fought through corridors filled with defending NIGMA warriors. The aliens' natural advantages, superior individual strength and armored exoskeletons, meant nothing against human tactical superiority and advanced weaponry. Sergeant Lim kicked down a reinforced door and found himself face to face with a NIGMA warrior drone, its forearms wielding plasma weapons. Before the alien could react, Lim's squad had surrounded it, their coordinated fire bringing down the creature in seconds. "These bugs still don't understand teamwork," Lim radioed to his commander. "They fight like individual champions instead of coordinated units." Above the planet, Commander Yun's fleet had established a complete blockade, preventing any NIGMA ships from escaping or bringing reinforcements. Her ships moved in carefully coordinated patterns that would have impressed even the most rigid NIGMA tactician, but with a flexibility that alien minds couldn't comprehend. "NIGMA transport attempting to break through the blockade at Sector 7, reported Captain An from his destroyer. Should we destroy it? Negative, Commander Yun replied. Disable their engines and board them. I want to know what they're carrying and where they were planning to go. The boarding action revealed the true horror of NIGMA operations. The transport was filled with human prisoners being shipped to other worlds for biological experiments. Among them were children from the outer colonies, their eyes hollow with trauma, but still alive. Back on the planet's surface, Major Kim stood over a captured NIGMA drone in the ruins of what had been the alien's primary command center. The creature's compound eyes looked up at him with something that might have been confusion or fear. Why do you not accept our surrender? The alien chittered through its translator device. The battle is lost. By the laws of war, you should show mercy to defeated enemies. Major Kim methodically cleaned his plasma rifle, the weapon still warm, from the recent fighting. Around them, the sounds of battle continued as human forces cleared the remaining hive cities of NIGMA resistance. Laws of war? Kim repeated, his voice deadly quiet. You want to talk about laws of war? What laws were you following when you enslaved our children? What mercy did you show when you turned our people into test subjects? The NIGMA drone clicked its mandibles nervously. That was different. You are an inferior species. It was for the advancement of science. Kim looked up from his weapon, his eyes holding the accumulated anger of humanity's losses. Here's something you need to understand about humans. We remember everything, every attack on our colonies, every person you took, every child you hurt, and when we make promises, we keep them. The alien's confusion was obvious. What promises? We promised that if you attacked our people, there would be consequences, Kim replied, standing up and shouldering his rifle. We promised that we would never forget and never forgive. And we promised that your empire would pay for what you've done. The liberation of Hectron Prime was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, human strike forces were hitting NIGMA installations with ruthless efficiency. What had once seemed like an invincible empire was crumbling under the sustained assault of human forces that fought with a determination the aliens had never experienced. Each victory brought more rescued prisoners, more evidence of NIGMA crimes, and more fuel for humanity's righteous anger. The hunt had begun, and it would not end until every NIGMA stronghold had fallen, and every human prisoner had been freed. The empire that had laughed at human warnings was learning too late that some species should never be underestimated, and some promises should never be tested. The throne world of Zekneth Prime trembled beneath the weight of orbital bombardment as human warships surrounded the last stronghold of the once mighty NIGMA Empire. What had been the crown jewel of an interstellar civilization now looked like a dying ember. Its crystalline cities cracked and burning under the relentless human assault. Deep within the planetary core, in a throne room that had once hosted the surrender of 100 species, Hive Queen Zektar pressed her massive form against the biomechanical walls. Her 12-foot frame, which had once struck terror into the hearts of conquered worlds, now shook with fear as the sounds of human forces grew closer. The Queen's compound eyes darted frantically around the chamber as her remaining war drones clicked their mandibles in panic. Where once thousands of loyal subjects had filled the hive chambers, now only a handful remained. The rest had either fled to distant worlds or fallen before the unstoppable human advance. Your Majesty, chittered War Drone Klekmar, his forearms trembling as he operated the communication console. The humans have breached the outer defenses. Our bioships are falling back to the final perimeter, but they cannot hold much longer. Through the organic walls of the throne chamber, Queen Zektar could hear the distinctive whine of human plasma weapons and the thunderous explosions of their siege engines. Each blast sent vibrations through the hive structure, reminding her that her empire's doom was literally at the door. Above the planet, General Park stood on the command deck of the UCS Retribution, watching as the last NIGMA defense fleet attempted one final desperate charge against the human blockade. His weathered face showed no emotion as alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes against the star-filled backdrop. Sir, the enemy fleet has been neutralized, reported Commander Yu from the tactical station. No NIGMA ships remain combat effective. We have complete orbital control. Park nodded, his gray eyes fixed on the planet below. After months of hunting NIGMA forces across the galaxy, The end had finally come. Every human colony that had been attacked, every prisoner that had been taken, every crime against humanity was about to be answered. "Open a communication channel to the planet's surface," Park ordered. "It's time to finish this." Deep in her throne chamber, Queen Zektar watched in horror as the main communication screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of the human general who had become the nightmare of her species. General Park's expression was as cold and merciless as the vacuum of space itself. "Queen Zektar," Park began, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's judgment. "Your empire is finished. Your fleets are destroyed. Your worlds have fallen. This is the end of the line." The massive alien queen's mandibles clicked frantically as she tried to comprehend how her mighty empire had crumbled so completely. Just months ago, she had commanded millions of ships and ruled over hundreds of worlds. Now she cowered in a bunker, while human forces prepared to deliver final justice. "This cannot be," she chittered in disbelief. "The NIGMA Empire has stood for 10,000 years. We have conquered species across the galaxy. How can a single primitive world defeat us?" Park's expression didn't change. "We warned you. We told you not to attack our colonies. We offered you peace and you chose war. We told you not to enslave our people and you laughed at our threats. Every step of the way we gave you chances to stop." The Queen's compound eyes reflected the flickering lights of her dying throne room as explosions grew closer. "But you are just mammals, inferior creatures. The hive mind is superior to individual thought." "Your hive mind made you predictable," Park replied coldly. "Your superiority complex made you stupid. And your cruelty made this personal." As if to emphasize his words, the sound of human combat boots echoed through the corridors outside the throne chamber. Colonel Ryu's assault troops had finally reached the heart of the NIGMA stronghold, their weapons ready to deliver the final blow to an empire built on oppression. Queen Zektar's voice crackled with desperation as she realized the futility of her situation. "Please," she clicked, her proud voice reduced to begging. "Show mercy. Spare what remains of my people. We can negotiate terms of surrender." Park studied the alien queen for a long moment, remembering the reports of human children found in NIGMA, research facilities, the evidence of brutal experiments, and the testimonies of survivors who had witnessed their families being torn apart by these creatures. "Mercy?" he repeated, his voice carrying dangerous quiet. "You want to talk about mercy? Where was your mercy when you turned our people into laboratory rats? Where was your compassion when you enslaved our children?" The sound of breaching charges exploded through the throne chamber as human marines prepared to enter the final sanctuary of the NIGMA Empire. Queen Zektar pressed herself against the far wall, her massive form trembling with the realization that her species' reign of terror was over. "Your empire is finished," Park continued, his words carrying the finality of a death sentence. "Your military is destroyed. Your fleets are scattered. Your people will spend generations remembering this lesson, that some species should never be crossed." As the throne chamber doors exploded inward and human soldiers poured through the breach, Captain Lee aboard the command ship opened a communication channel that reached across the entire galaxy. Her message would be heard by every species, every civilization, and every potential threat to humanity. "To all who can hear this transmission," Captain Lee announced, her voice carrying to the farthest reaches of known space, "let this be a lesson to any who would threaten human worlds or harm human people. We are not the weak, primitive species you might think we are." The transmission included footage of the fallen NIGMA fleets, the liberated prison worlds, and the final collapse of what had been one of the galaxy's most feared empires. Across countless worlds, alien species watched in stunned silence as they realized that humanity had just announced its arrival as a galactic power. "The NIGMA Empire thought they could attack us with impunity," Lee continued. "They thought their numbers and technology made them invincible. They thought wrong. Let all species know, humans keep their warnings. Cross us at your peril." As Queen Zektar was led away in restraints by human marines, her empire's final chapter closed forever. The scattered survivors of her species would carry the story of humanity's terrible efficiency in war. ensuring that future generations would remember the cost of underestimating the species from Earth. The galaxy had a new lesson to learn. Humans might offer peace, but they were equally capable of delivering total war. And when they made promises, whether of friendship or retribution, they always kept their word. Toikinti.